Welcome to the Adventures of a Disney Dad podcast. I'm Matt, a dad of 3, a travel agent, and your host. Together with my co-host Chip, a dad of 5, we bring you expert advice, insightful interviews, and updates for your next family vacation to Universal Orlando or Walt Disney World. This week, we are really excited to be joined by the theme team. Nick and Bri are content creators who create family content at Universal Orlando Resorts. And on this week's episode, we discuss the latest news at Universal Orlando and Walt Disney World, and we really get into tips for Universal Orlando with kids that are under the 48-inch height requirement. Let's get right to it. So welcome back to the Adventures of a Disney Dad podcast. We've got Bri and Nick, the theme team, and they're joining us to talk about all things Universal. We're going to jump into the Walt Disney World and Universal news. We're going to talk a lot about the Universal Orlando Cinesational Symphonic Spectacular, which I feel like is a tongue twister if I've ever heard one. But before we get into that, I want to talk a little bit about our guests, Bri and Nick. And just so everybody knows on socials, the links will be in the description. How did you guys get started into content creation on Instagram? And are you guys on TikTok?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we started, we've been going to the parks for like 3 years consistently. And I've always made content about the parks, but the people in our like regular, profiles did not care. Like they just were like, they're there again. Like, cool.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I didn't feel like we had like that connection with our friends, our normal friends. To put it simply, our normal friends just don't get it.
Yeah.
They just don't get it.
Exactly.
And so it's like we found this community of people who do, and it just gets us hype. It gets us more hype about the things that we do there and what's coming.
Yeah, before we started this too, me and some of my buddies were actually getting into YouTube golf, or trying to, which is actually super popular on YouTube now, which I had no idea, but we just never really went anywhere with it. And we love Universal, so we just kind of got into it.
I think that, the YouTube golf thing is crazy because there's like TikTok.
Same.
I know more than like PGA guys at this point now, but there's 2 unique things about your content that really stuck out to us. Number one is that you focus on Universal, which is not something that you see a whole lot in the content creation world because there's so much, content being created about Disney. And then a lot of people kind of mix it together, a little like we do on the podcast. And the other part of it is that you guys do it together, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Our wives are not, like they cheer us on or whatever, and they'll occasionally participate, but that's about it. So like, I guess, did you guys think about that in advance, or how did that come to be where you guys were like, we want to do this together? And was like one of you into it more than the other, or how did that work?
I'm definitely into it more than he is. He always calls himself like a puppet, and I just like tell him, or like a monkey, and I just tell him to dance.
Yeah.
Like, I think I'm a little bit more into it than Nick was to start, but it's really grown on him. Like 9 times out of 10, if you're talking to someone on our page, it's me. Mostly just because Nick works a lot and he's on and off his phone, so it's like easier to turn his notifications off. But yeah, I think the overall idea is just that we really, can I name drop people on here? Can I say
Sure.
like, oh, I love them? Okay, the Pew 2, we've always watched Pew 2 from when we first started going to Universal, and we were like, I just love their dynamic. I just love what they're doing, and it's just like fresh,
And we met them too before we started doing this.
like right before.
And they were just super nice and very like informative. We're like, we kind of thought about doing it, and they were just like giving us pointers, and I thought that was really cool.
They still do. Like, we'll message them, and they'll just paragraphs just like of advice, which is really cool. But the reason we do it together is pretty much everything we do is very much family unit, family oriented. We both come from like not weird family dynamics, but unusual family dynamics. So like that's like the number one thing, priority in both of our lives is family. So we're just that weird family that does everything together, and will probably always will. So hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird because the kids are so young. The kids are so young, so it's kind of weird like putting them in videos at first, but we wanted them to be part of our experience too. And it's also super helpful because like we wanted to bring our kids and go to Universal and have a good time, but we didn't really know how to do it. So it's like, okay, let's figure it out and then put it out to the people, so maybe it'll be helpful to some families. So
Well, you got two dads who are the same way in the mindset of it's always family. I'm a dad of 5, and my wife is, well, she's one of 5. I'm one of 3. So it's one of those things that family is. We do everything together, and that's one of the things we love about your content is you guys are always doing everything together.
Yeah, no doubt. How old are your kids, just by way of background? Because we're going to talk about that a lot, because the kid thing with Universal is something that always gets brought up. How old are your kids?
They're 5 and 4. So It's really weird. It was such a strange experience buying an annual pass for a 3 and a 4-year-old. It was just like, I feel like we're doing something wrong, but good also. But yeah, it's been super cool. And they're really comfortable in the parks now. It's just about exposure and getting them out there and showing them things, doing stuff with them. Yeah,
definitely. And when it comes to your content, one of the things I love is you guys do a lot of long form stuff on YouTube. And do you guys focus more there, or are you trying to do like short form stuff, tips and entertainment, while also doing long form vlog style tips and entertainment? Is that kind of your goal?
The goal is to be informative, mostly because like that's basically what YouTube is now, is like 75% of people want to have a question answered on YouTube. And it's like, well, that's where we come in. Like, we know it a lot. We could be really helpful to a lot of families who think like, oh, this is going to be a breeze. It's like, it could be. It definitely could be. But there's a lot we didn't know when we first, started bringing our tiny children to these parks, and we just wish we would have known. Like, Surfside, if you're staying there, bring a sound machine, or none of you are going to sleep. Like, just that little bit of information would be very helpful. But it's hard to get short form content in people's faces that is informational. They just don't scroll for short, you know what I mean? They're not looking at that for shorts. They're just not.
Yeah, the goal is comedy.
The goal is to, I guess my strategy, here we go, is to, use that short form content to really let our personality and our love for Universal shine. And then hopefully that will get them there to YouTube, where they can see like, oh, they're not just here having a good time. They're actually pretty helpful. And help.
I've heard a lot of people say that like short form is like the appetizer to your long form, right? Like, people get exposed to you, then they want to get to know you more. And it's the same way with the podcast, right? Like, people get exposed to you briefly on short form, and then they want to come and listen to you for 30 or 45 minutes and hear more about your experience and all this stuff, which is, I mean, honestly, that's how we found you guys, right? So I think a lot of it works out that way, and you guys are doing a great job. So we're happy to introduce you to our audience, and hope everybody checks you guys out. And all of their links to get their socials and their YouTube are going to be in the show notes and in the description, so you can be able to check out everything that they're doing. But before we talk more about Universal, I want to jump into the news very briefly. And when it comes to Walt Disney World, we're going to run through it really quick. Okay, Test Track 2.0 is now closed at Epcot, and Epcot is in chaos. The wait times have gone nuts, because there's basically people feeling like Test Track apparently was a really good ride. I don't know why that is. I don't know what's going on. But Test Track 3.0 is going to be the next step, and it's going to be preparing for a revamp. So sorry if you love Test Track, but we're looking forward to something new. Frontierland Shooting Arcade, another thing that like I still don't understand how people enjoyed so much, because it was a BB gun freebie, basically, is now closed permanently in preparation for a new DVC lounge. Chip, I know, is going to be happy about that, but we'll save it for a different episode.
Definitely.
There's a new study that came out, and I found this really interesting, and we're going to mention it briefly, and then we'll talk a little bit more, because it does touch a little on the theme team talked a little bit about how expensive it can be to go to these theme parks. And there was a new study that showed that out of 2,000 families that were surveyed, 45% of parents reported that if they took their children to Disney, they acquired nearly $2,000 in debt, which is absolutely bonkers to me. I mean, I get that it's all expensive, but those are some crazy numbers. The big news out of Universal Orlando is the Cinesational. Is that how you guys pronounce it? Cinesational?
Yeah, I'm still figuring it out too.
It doesn't roll off the tongue well.
I don't know how to pronounce it.
Yeah.
It is crazy. So the Cinesational Symphonic Spectacular, it's a drone and water projection show, which is something that we've talked about on this show in particular, that Universal has just badly needed is a nighttime show. Like, stop closing at 6 p.m. so that we can have a great nighttime show. Is now running at Universal. It runs nightly at 9 p.m. along with Hogwarts Always, which is basically once dusk hits, as long as the park is open, it runs continuously for 7.5 minutes just on repeat on the castle. But we're lucky enough to be with Bri and Nick, who have seen the nighttime show at Universal. I think you guys went this weekend, right?
Yes.
So give us your feedback and your thought process. I mean, was it as awesome as it seems?
Cinesational was intense. It was so
it was
cool.
Really good.
We had we got out there like 45 minutes before it started and got like a front row seat right in front of the water.
This was opening day. Like, this is the first day it was playing for all guests, not just the media preview.
Just so much going on.
It was a lot.
And it was like you could just see how much work went into it, and it really showed. It was unbelievable. It like hit on some older Universal stuff. So for me, I used to go to Universal when I was really little. I'm 35 now, so it was a different park back then. But like seeing some of the old stuff, like the E.T., like they didn't have Twister, but they were like really big on Mummy. I love the Mummy. Back to the Future stuff.
So much
cool.
Good sound music. So much good sound music.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot. And then like we kind of touched on like the crowd, it being a really big crowd, but being a really big crowd, like these were all people who cared about this show. These weren't like random people there for vacation. Maybe it was, but the reaction to like each new thing was so good. It was just like the crowd would like get louder than the music at times when it just got really good. There was let's see, there was Jurassic Park, Mummy, Universal Monsters,
Ghostbusters.
Yeah. That was probably my favorite part.
Yeah.
It just, the drones were just like when it would get calm and then like, you know, the music would get loud or like the big drop or rise or whichever it would be, the drones would come out and you'd just be like, whoa, the whole crowd.
People behind us were going nuts. It made the whole experience even better.
It was very cool.
Yeah, there's water, there's fireworks, projections.
Jaws was cool.
I think Jaws was the clip that I saw, and I'm like a huge Jurassic Park nerd, so like I'm really excited to see it. And I'm going down next week, so definitely making that a priority. Did you guys also do Hogwarts Always? Did you check that out?
We did.
Yes, we did. Before we move on to that, I do want to say, don't be disappointed, but there is not a ton of Jurassic Park. There's a small snippet. And I think I have a friend who he's Jurassic Park. Like, he is Jurassic Park. And
I'm pretty sure I know who you're talking about. He's the guy that has the car, right?
Jurassic Vic, yes.
Yes,
that's him.
I follow him on my personal Instagram. I follow him
awesome.
all the time.
We're very like, okay, we're in this new world. Like, we need to be careful, like, who we, you know, I guess to get too friendly with. Like, we have our kids to worry about. We have ourselves to worry about. But he, like, genuinely, we really like him. He's a new friend of ours. But he was really upset. Like, we saw him the night after. He was like, no, they snubbed Jurassic Park. I was like, but the mega movie parade that's coming in July, it's supposed to have a really big showcasing of Jurassic Park. So just putting that out there.
Well, shout out to Jurassic Vic.
Yeah, it sounds like it was awesome. It sounds like it was all like 80s great movies.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the theme this summer. It's like all bringing back the classics, which like the crowd was, they hit their demo because the crowd was, they were there for it.
I love the Mummy stuff, and I was surprised how much Mummy stuff was in that show. I was super excited about it.
It's always weird. I'm surprised how much that ride hits with people. Like, still,
it's so good.
It's like, it's such a bizarre thing, right? And like, one of there's two things that I always hear people come back and say is, number one, that they loved the Mummy and they were shocked that they liked it that much, and number two, they're always complaining about not having a nighttime show. But like, a lot of them always want the nighttime show at the castle at Hogwarts. And so it was interesting to me that they kind of flipped it. Like, the castle show doesn't seem to be that much of a show. Is that the case? Because it's a 7.5 minute kind of projection, right?
I feel like if we did like the Hogwarts Forever, Hogwarts Always first, and then did the Cinesational, the Harry Potter stuff would have been more impressive. Yeah. But also, we were there with our kids, and they got their wands that day.
Oh, that was cool.
And I kept looking at my watch because I knew what time it started. I'm like, all right, boys. All right, now do it on the castle, do a little thing. And it started. And it was like really, really cool. And I don't know if that was a bad thing, because now our kids think they're super special.
They're like, we did that. I was like, okay.
It was really cool with the kids. The kids with the Cinesational, it was just so bam, 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 like action packed, noisy. It almost wasn't as enjoyable for them, like 5 and 4 year olds. But
I don't know. I was editing a YouTube video earlier, and they watched the whole. They were like, "Can you stop stopping the video?" Because I was editing it, and I was like, "No, I'm gonna keep editing." But they were trying to rewatch it with me. They liked it.
Our youngest one liked it better on the screen. When we were there, it was a little jumpy for him.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But the difference between the two is also that Cinesational is 22 minutes long, and Hogwarts is 7.5 minutes long. So I mean, for what it is, for Harry Potter and for Hogwarts always, like, it's really cool. There's a different outcome for each show. I guess it's kind of like a challenge, or a year, the yearly challenge between the houses. A different house will win, and you just never know which one you're going to get, which is kind of cool. But
you're supposed to root for your houses as it goes along.
Yeah, but you will definitely catch us. If we get there again before it ends, we're going to be sitting in front row Cinesational.
Gryffindor is the only one that can win. That's just
right.
Yes,
that's what I expect.
So, in terms of tips for guests, when you talk about Cinesational, how early? I know you guys went on the opening night, but I'm sure you've seen a little bit of feedback also, just being so plugged into Universal. What are your recommendations for families that are going down on how early to get a spot? And like logistically speaking, we're talking about Universal Studios, not Islands of Adventure, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So if you're in Universal Studios, I would recommend, if the show starts at 9, I would recommend having a spot picked around 8, and then go use the bathroom, get your refreshments, do whatever you need to do, and be back by like 8:30 if you want optimal viewing places. I've had friends who told us that they didn't really like it, but they got a really bad view, and they're short and they couldn't see the whole thing. We got front row. They put out a disclaimer that front row might get wet. We didn't. We felt like a mist here and there, but it was fine. My eyes were wet because I cried. I would cry at Happily Ever After too. I'm like, okay.
Actual seating, or is it just like all standing in an area?
Standing, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there's so it's in Central Park. It's got about 4 levels.
Yeah.
With pathways, and I mean, they fill up. Like, we had the stroller parked out in front of the front row, and the kids were standing in it. We tried to get it as much out of the way as possible, but
yeah, it's kind of tiered. So the front where we were, luckily we're not super short, so we could see everything really well. But right behind's like a little grassy area, and that's where the most people were that filled up first.
Yeah, well, that was the annual pass holder viewing area, which they did have, I guess, for this particular thing. They do that during Mardi Gras parades as well. They do an annual pass viewing area, but I don't know if it's going to be a continuous thing. Yeah, 30 minutes early if you want like a good seat. And I would say if you're short, go for the front, because you're not going to get to see everything.
Now, where's the bad seats?
I saw them like wrapped around the little lake out there, and I think like on the Transformer side, I don't know because I haven't seen any like videos or views of that side, but I feel like the water where we were sitting is just going straight up.
Yeah.
And then it's projected onto that. Yeah. So from the backs, like the side, you're seeing a lot of cool stuff still, but that actual like projection is missing. There's also people on the back side, and I have no idea if they're seeing that projection backwards or how that
they
works.
Are. It's coming from behind the waters and like where the drones are. So that's where it's projecting. I think they can see it, but just not as well. We have seen a lagoon show from like over in the area that is next to Mel's, like that area over there, and we didn't really get to see everything. But that was like the old one. I would definitely say the bad is anywhere too high. If you are short, you want to be up to the front. If you're tall, let everyone go to the front, get in the bag. Like, let's do this the right way. Anything too far out on the sides where you wouldn't get that like straight on view.
Okay. Awesome.
All right.
Awesome.
That helps out a lot. Yeah.
I think that's some great advice for anybody that's headed down. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the new Universal DreamWorks area. But first, I want to touch on Epic Universe. There is a Universal Epic Universe announcement coming on June 20th. We are expected to get a closer look at the Dark Universe area of Epic Universe. Generally speaking, Nick and Bri, like, what area are you most excited about at Epic Universe?
Well, Dark Universe has been confirmed. They sent out their medallions to all the media people, so you can expect that on the 20th. I have a really hard time deciding what my most anticipated is. I think I want to say Dark Universe, but I'm really excited for How to Train Your Dragon because we just rewatched the whole series with the kids, and it was like tear jerk after tear jerk. I was like, oh my god, I love this. I want to meet Toothless. Yeah, it's hard. And then I would say Super Mario is like my least anticipated.
Oh, come on now.
I'm just being honest. I didn't
I'm
play
surprised.
Mario.
I feel like you guys have Harry Potter stuff. So like I'm shocked you're not like big into the Harry Potter area.
I guess we've done so much Harry Potter, and Fantastic Beasts just didn't do it for me really. I didn't love all of the movies. I do think it will be cool. I'm very excited to see what they do with the Ministry of Magic, but Dark Universe is probably second for me. Yeah. Then Harry Potter, then Super Nintendo World, but I think Celestial Park is going to be really cool too. Like, I don't know. And they've already filed, I don't know if this is true or not.
Yeah, I saw it too. I know where you're going. I saw it.
I've heard it from more than one source, one being that it was she's a very good source, but there will be more to come eventually.
Spill the tea, girl. You can't leave it that way.
Okay. No, I'm just kidding. Basically, this was always going to be the thing. If you look at the map, there's a section of the park that has not been, I guess, shown as a concept yet. There's just trees. And the rumor was way back when that was going to be an expansion area. But the rumor is essentially that when Epic Universe opens, they will continue construction in that section of the park and be expanding it while it's already open, which could be sooner than anticipated in the first place.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's a big open area where it's like, what are they doing over here?
Mm-hmm. It's between Dark Universe and Dark Universe and Super Nintendo World.
Is it? I think I read something like 70 acres or something, which that's
big.
A lot.
Massive.
It's big, yeah.
I've heard that they've got a ton of other land also in the area.
They do. So it's crazy.
Somebody asked how big it was. I forget what they said, but it's
oh my god,
it's like a huge area.
We were at the preview center and someone was talking to one of the team members that was working it, and they were like, "So how big is it?" And I was like, trying not to answer, but she didn't know, and I was like, "It's bigger than Magic Kingdom," and just like disappeared like into the shadows. I was like, that's all.
The theme park wars are going to be fun. That's for sure.
Well, and I don't mean that as like a jab. I mean that as like serious reference. Like it's huge. You better have your Hokas or your On Clouds because it's going to be a good time.
And people don't realize how big Magic Kingdom is. Like
it's massive.
It's not going to be small. And I think in the context of Universal, right, the biggest knock on Universal right now is even the two parks are kind of tiny. Like you can do a lot pretty quickly. So like people don't really understand the scope of how big Epic Universe is, but it's going to be awesome. We're going to run short on time. If we got lots of fun stuff to get through, so I want to make sure we get to all of it. First, we're going to play a game. And I am really excited about this because this is not a game that we've played on this show before.
No.
But,
all right.
So Nick and Bri, I'm going to ask you guys, did you guys have, you're at Universal, so I don't expect you have, but did you get a chance to see Inside Out 2?
Yes, we did. We watched it. Rained, so we watched it.
Yeah.
Look at that. All right. So I know Chip hasn't had a chance to see it yet, right, Chip?
No, we haven't seen it yet.
Okay. So we went this weekend, and I found, number one, it was an awesome movie, but the biggest thing was that it's now in the top 5 opening weekends of all time for an animated film, which is like mind-blowing to me. And one of the things that I talked a little on social media about is like, our movie's back. And Nick and Bri, you guys, like us, you have kids that are like basically COVID-era kids, right? And our kids have grown up where going to the movies has not really been a thing because we've all just been like, well, let's wait until it comes out on streaming. And people are now, I think our families included, like, you want to go to the movie theater and you want to take your kids, which is kind of a dynamic flip. And putting all that into context, I thought it would be really fun to play a game. We're going to play, it's called the 3-strike game. So Nick and Bri, you guys are going to have 3 strikes. Chip's going to have 3 strikes. And I'm not going to play because I know all the answers. You're going to guess the top 5 opening weekends of all time for an animated film domestically. Okay?
Let's
so
go.
we know one of them. One of them is Inside Out 2, right? So there's 4 more you guys are gonna have to guess, and you'll have 2 opportunities for hints. You can ask for 2 hints. You get 3 strikes on each team, 2 hints. You guys are working together. We're just trying to figure out the answers. So that said, you got 4 to find out. Do you guys have a guess as to what is in the top 5 animated grossing films of all time? I'm going to tell you, this is a lot harder than you think it is.
Okay.
It's a lot harder than you think it is. So, Nick and Bri, do you guys have a guess?
Yes. Avengers.
No,
No, it's animated. It's animated.
Animated. Oh, no.
I got it.
Bri's not even in the right category.
I'm not.
Let's go Toy Story.
What?
Strike 1.
You should have consulted a little.
You were about to say Avengers.
Well,
no.
okay. Animated Toy Story is not it. Let's think.
Well, my question was going to be, if we say the genre of or the series, does that include?
You got to get the film right.
You got to get it right on. Okay.
Will you tell us if we're hot or cold?
I'm thinking Toy Story 2
Okay.
or Toy Story 3 is one of them. I'm also thinking Frozen 2 is one of them.
Don't be Googling either, because I can see your eyes.
I'm not.
So
No, I'm not.
I don't.
What's he looking at right now?
Right?
I'm
So
thinking.
you guys let me know when you're ready to lock in your next guess.
I'm
Or if you
gonna
want a clue.
I'm gonna go Frozen 2.
Frozen 2 is correct. That is one of them. So we've got two of the 5 now.
What number?
Let me see. That was number 5.
Really?
Yeah.
Animated.
I'm trying to think of like any animated show that
I really thought Toy Story.
They've all got to be billions. So
is Toy Story completely out? 1, 2, and 3.
Toy Story is completely out. Do you guys want a hint?
Okay. Yeah, get a hint. Get us started here.
All but one, which is related to the one is related to Universal. All the others are sequels.
Oh.
it has to be, right? Sequels.
What about?
What was the other hint? The other hint was one is related to Universal.
Well, I'm thinking it's How to Train Your Dragon.
I mean, it had like that's.
Is that
Or
a
is it
guess?
Shrek? Or is it Shrek? Is it one of the
Oh,
Shreks?
there it
Shrek too.
yeah.
I
Okay.
feel like How to Train Your Dragon 2 has to be on there, right?
Is that an official guess?
I would.
I feel like
I
it
believe it's. Go ahead. Yeah, I'll take it. Yeah.
Yeah. Go for it. Yeah.
Strike on each side. I told you this is harder than you think it is.
Oh, it's probably Mario, right?
Maybe.
No.
Mario
Chip?
Mario was
Yes.
great.
It could
Yeah.
be Mario.
Very good.
Let's go. But the problem is Mario came out right when COVID was kind of ending. My kids saw it in the
went.
theater. All right, go Mario. The Mario Brothers.
Mario is correct. Mario is correct. That is the one that's related to Universal. So Super Mario Brothers movie comes in at number 3. So now you guys have number 2, which is Inside Out 2, number 3, which is the Super Mario Brothers movie, and number 5, which is Frozen 2. You are missing 2 of them, and I'm going to tell you right now, they are very difficult.
Really?
All right. How old? Can I ask like how old
Well,
are they?
the other two have to
are
be
they-
Disney.
Well, he's got one more hint. He does have one more hint.
I think we got to use them now. We're about to strike out.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Let's do it. Yeah.
Ellen DeGeneres.
Oh, Finding Dory.
Finding
yeah.
Dory comes in at number 4. So they're
Okay,
missing the number 1 overall.
And it's
We
a
gotta get
sequel.
one.
Wow.
It's a sequel, so we got to think.
It's not Frozen.
It's not
We already
Cars
got
2. I know I'm rocking a Cars shirt, but I don't think it's Cars 2. It wasn't that great of a movie.
I'm trying to think of like the most like profound. It has to be a Pixar movie, right?
I don't know.
Can't give us some more hints, can
There's
you?
no more hints, are there?
I will give you one more hint after you guys each get one more strike. Because right now you guys each have 1 strike. So if you guys get down to where your last
I
strike
forgot we all 3 have strikes.
No. You 2 as a pair have a strike, and Chip has a strike. So you guys each have 2 more strikes. Give it a guess.
What do you
I'll
got?
go Incredibles 2.
Yeah.
You Googled. You cheater. You had to.
No, I didn't. I
No
swear.
way. He got it. He got it. I was like absolutely blown away that Incredibles 2 is the top opening weekend of all time for an animated film.
We just watched
saw
that
it. It's
recently also.
That's
and I didn't even
crazy.
think about that.
What year did it come out? Do you know?
Oh gosh, offhand I don't. I don't
Nope,
even
I'll tell you, it was 2018. It's 2018.
Because he's got it Googled right now. That's why.
No, it was 2018.
So it for context, Inside Out 2 did 155 million, and Incredibles 2 did 182 million in its opening weekend. Finding Dory, I've still never even seen, so that's kind of embarrassing for me. Yeah, like, what am I doing? And then the Super Mario Brothers movie, I think, would have crushed all these numbers if it wasn't released.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like if it was released now, it would just be absolutely blown away. I was gonna sing Peaches if I needed to, but
Super
done.
We're good.
Game's
Yeah,
over.
we got not. We got to do better than that. I'm too
I got
competitive.
Super Mario.
Good job, dude.
Yeah, you guys all. It was teamwork. It was teamwork.
I figured. I thought Toy Story was like a shoe-in.
Listen. I was thinking it was Toy Story 2 or 3 because I saw all 4 of them opening weekend.
I would have thought Toy Story or like Monsters Inc. or something like that.
That was my next one. Monsters Inc.
Would have been in there.
I
But
literally drew a blank.
let's jump into our main segment quickly because we're running a little late, and as we normally do, so it's okay. But the main segment of the show is I think really important, especially for a lot of families that are clients of mine at the Magic for Less, but just families in general. We talk all the time about the 48-inch rule at Universal. And the 48-inch rule is, people always ask, how old should my kids be before I take them to Universal? And typically the response is they should be 48 inches old. And it's kind of just a running joke that, like, to ride a lot of the rides and do a lot of the experiences, you need to be 48 inches tall, which is funny enough. The theme team experienced that in detail this weekend when their tallest and oldest was like just a little short on social media. But I think you guys have really shown that that's not necessarily the case anymore. And Universal as a whole has been working really hard to kind of debunk that theory and build more stuff that's built for families and young kids. They just opened the new DreamWorks area. How do you guys make Universal family vacations fun with young kids? Like, how did that start for you that you decided, hey, I'm going to go to Universal with my children and we're going to have a great time? And how did it continue?
It's like a lot of things that we do with them. Like we try to travel once a year, like really far away. We don't really know what's going to go. We try to go in with no expectations and just keep everything as fun and interesting as possible. Mm-hmm. When we went the first time with them, same kind of thing.
We only had to pay for one.
Right.
Which helped.
Yeah, so it didn't feel like as much of a burden at the time, but they really took to the Dr. Seuss area, Cat in the Hat stuff, which as an adult, riding those things 2 or 3 times, you're like, I want to go back to the hotel. You know what I mean? I'm done with
Cat
this.
in the Hat on repeat is a nightmare.
But it kind of like doing that in the carousel and like just doing things with them and showing them how fun these things are. They're not scary. Like they ride the hippogriff now, which is actually kind of fun. You know what I mean? And the roller coaster. And Nixon was about to ride Hagrid's and missed it by a couple centimeters. You know, so and he was more like one of our kind of scaredy cats as a younger guy, but so like the fact that he's doing that now means I think we've done this pretty good so far. I don't know the right way to do it necessarily, but I think we've kind of gone into it with the right idea.
I think too it started with, we did an adult trip and we realized like, oh, we want to keep coming here, but like I'm not going to leave my family out of this, and if we're going to be pass holders, it doesn't matter because we can just come and do our adult stuff and then come back and simply focus on the kids, which is the difference between those two trips. Like when we're with our kids, we don't ride any adult rides at all, which sounds crazy, but we get to go so often that it's fine.
We kind of back them up. We do an adult trip and then a family trip like 2 weeks later. So we're not as like, oh, I want to ride that, right? You know,
like when Epic opens, we probably will do an adult trip before we bring our kids, because realistically, I'm gonna have way too many agendas to bring them, and I know it's funny. It's funny. It is, but like the reality is I can be better to them if I don't have an agenda. You know what I mean? Like I can fully focus on them, and if I've done everything, then I can do that. I can be like, I might not even do How to Train Your Dragon until I go with them, but like the adult stuff, like that's
for sure. Mm-hmm. The new DreamWorks land too is awesome. Especially for our age, there's kids of all ages out there having a great time.
And
I had no issues
all
with
generations, right? Like I mean,
it does.
Yeah. So good.
Shrek came out when
like
we
Park
were
Side, like even I think that's funny. I'm like, Yep.
No, it's like I saw like mixed reviews about it, and I was confused. I was like, why?
Because it was coming from a bunch of adults.
It was like a 28-year-old with no kids. I'm like, well, what are you doing over there? Why are you in the splash pad right now? You know what I mean? Like, it's so awesome with our kids, and like it's like those classic like Shrek and stuff. You know, Kung Fu Panda. We watched that with the kids. You know, like before we left.
Yeah.
It was fun for everybody. You know what I mean? And yeah.
I think too what you said about like the 48 inches years old. The thing is too with that, like our kids got to the height. Our kids are tall. Like they just naturally are really tall. Don't know where they got that from, but I'm just kidding. They were able to ride Spider-Man, but they were not ready. It was way too scary for them. They were not ready. I don't think you should base like, I guess, their ability to have fun based on rides. Like there is so much more to do at Universal than just rides. The immersion in itself is enough to get my kids a little bit overstimulated. They're like, all right, let's go back to the hotel. Like it's enough. If you get them into the IPs enough, they're going to go there and they're going to have a blast, whether you ride anything or not. And they might not even be ready to ride anything.
That is a really good point too when it comes to like the adults having your own agenda. Like I'm obsessed with Velocicoasters, so like when my wife and I took the kids on our recent trip, like all I cared about, and it's selfishly, was my wife getting to ride Velocicoaster. And she didn't get to because, well, yeah, like, but it's like I'm wearing a Velocicoaster t-shirt. The line was like 2 hours long, and we didn't buy Express that day, which I think was kind of an iffy decision, but it was like pretty expensive, and you've got kids, it adds up. Yeah, it adds up pretty quickly. And so we didn't want to spend like 2 hours trying to entertain the kids somewhere else while my wife just rode it by herself. Like, it doesn't really work that way. But, you know, they do have great rider swap and family areas at each ride. I think that's something that's really important. But when you talk about the immersion and like other things to do outside of the rides, what are some of your favorite things to do?
One thing I will say too, while you're talking about child swap, just because it's on my brain, is that we have had experiences where our kids are very scared of the queues. Well, they used to be when they were small. So if you ask a team member very nicely if they can wait in the child room while one of the adults waits in the regular line, they might just let you. So that is something to consider. We've done it more than once, especially Hagrid's. That tunnel is very scary to a 3-year-old. So just know that.
They love the Velocicoaster queue, though. Our kids love dinosaurs. So, like the whole Camp Cretaceous area and being able to ride Pteranodon flyers because we have a little one with us is kind of a perk being a parent there with them.
It's a great play area too. The play area is
like
awesome.
You were talking about like the immersion. That was the question, right? I lost it.
Yep.
Yeah. So the Camp Cretaceous area for any child, especially any child, like 4-year-olds, they love dinosaurs. They will not shut up about them. Like ask any 4-year-old what kind of dinosaur you're holding, they're going to be able to tell you, girl or boy. Like it's going to happen. Take them in there. And then not to mention the Discovery Center. I mean, we were just there. They're kind of doing more in there after COVID. They kind of stopped doing a lot of stuff in there, but they have like the raptor hatching experience. You can name a raptor if you get chosen. I just saw where they're actually doing the nursery tour. Like if you ask a team member, they might take you back there to do a tour of all the little dinosaurs and all the baby raptors. There's a ton of like interactive games to do. Like one of them is you do a bunch of scans on an egg. You literally picked up the egg, move it over into like a scanner, and you like do a bunch of things. It's like a puzzle. It's really great. And then they had a guy out there. He knew his stuff. He was telling us all the information about dinosaurs and how that, you know, Jurassic Park's dinosaurs are like 10 times bigger than the regular ones, and I mean everything.
Yeah, he was good, and he had a bunch of kids around him that were like being a little too much, and he just kept his cool. He's trained well. Yeah. Also, moms and dads out there, if you're going to take your kids to Camp Cretaceous, give yourself a stretch first, because that place will hurt your calf muscles, your ankle, your legs. You're going to need a break after that if you follow them around.
Yeah, sure. So the rope climbing is a lot. Maybe if you don't want to get a workout or it's summer, just don't even take them in there. Honestly, it's a lot. Like I've gotten lost in there, or just
it made me a little nervous. I'm not gonna lie to you. I felt like I could very easily lose track of my kids in there, but at the same time, it's a great place for them to get some energy out.
Well, there is one way in, so there's only one way out, which is good. I think it's better for like maybe kids closer our age now, like maybe 5 is like kind of the perfect age to put a little kid in there and let them run. But also, I don't know what 6 and 7 has in store for us. That's one thing about DreamWorks Land that I really like. It caters to these small children. The Shrek Swamp is like perfect. One way in, one way out. A lot smaller, and they have a lot of handicap accessible features. You can roll wheelchairs up, and it's not just a bunch of ropes where you gotta try and maneuver that. It's a whole pathway, which is really cool.
Our kids love the show at DreamWorks too.
Oh yeah,
Nixon was clapping, trying to dance, and
he tried.
Is that Trolls?
So the DreamWorks Imagination Celebration. Have you seen it? Have you heard of it?
I've not seen it. I read about it, but I'm like I said, I'm planning to go down next week and check a lot of the new stuff out. So
you should definitely check it out. The AC is great. I don't know. Did you ever see the Barney show that was in there?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So that one was like kind of multi-sensory as well, but this one is, there's going to be bubbles and like a couple other things. It mixes all of the IPs of DreamWorks Land in there, plus like one extra one at the end, which is really, really fun. Kind of all based around like these two friends who go out into their favorite place and one can't find their imagination. So the whole time they're just trying to spark that back up and they go into the movies, like into the scenes of those IPs.
Figment.
And this time of year too, that roller coaster queue, if it's more than 10 minutes long, you're gonna get sweaty. It is hot on that line. There's not much shade over there, so I think both times we went to the show was right after roller coasters.
It was hot.
I would suggest doing that in the summer for sure.
Yep.
Trolls are like for our kids collectively, the kids that are, I call them COVID kids, but like kids that have been kind of raised in the COVID generation. Trolls was it. Like
Theo was born like
that movie.
Yeah, Theo was born like the week of the shutdown. Like people weren't allowed in the hospital, but you weren't wearing masks yet. It was crazy. I was like, oh, this is fun.
Yeah, we went in, the world was normal, and we left, and we had to wear masks right after. It was really strange few days.
We have that in common. My middle son was born the night COVID started, and 8 weeks in the NICU. So
is he March baby?
Yeah.
Theo's birthday is March.
Very close. We're a little bit earlier, so definitely right there. And like, but any of those kids, like even Chip's kids that are a little bit older, like Trolls was it, and that's what everybody wants to see. So like leaning into that IP, I think is great. When it comes to like the resorts and the restaurants, and I know we're running a little long, so this will probably be like the last little subject I want to touch on, but I think it's really important. The resorts at Universal in comparison to Disney are always typically more affordable, and they're awesome. And I think people don't realize that as much because they go to Disney and then they pop over to Universal for a day or two. The one thing that does get like a bad rap at Universal is the dining and the restaurants and the snacks. Again, I think it's because people know Disney is known for food and snacks or whatever. What is your guys' experience and kind of some of your favorites for your family for resorts and restaurants? And I know that's a loaded question, so maybe just like a nugget or two here or there.
No, it's fine. We're pretty open about it. Like we talk about it all the time. We don't drink or anything, so especially for me, food is very important. I love just eating. I'm like a trash can, but you get out there and it's park food. You know what I mean? That's why I tell people it's like you're not going to get fine dining out here. Some places are better than others, but you can't expect to have some fancy meal out there.
I don't know what he's talking about. I'm just kidding. So when it comes to resorts, we go often enough that we don't feel the need to do any of the premier resorts that come with Express Pass. We typically stay Sapphire Falls, Cabana Bay, or Surfside. We do not typically stay Dockside, even though it is, super cheap. Those 2-bedroom suites are the same at Surfside and Dockside. We recommend Surfside. It's a lot smaller and a lot easier to manage, and there is one food court at Dockside, but it's twice the size, same amount of buses. Surfside's the way to go. Food there is okay. When it comes to Cabana Bay, 2-bedroom suite, we love that resort. It is amazing. Interior, exterior, the only thing you have to worry about is if it rains. That actually happened to us for the first time. It was very interesting. We had a great time there. And then Sapphire Falls has a 2-bedroom suite that is incredible for kids. We love that one. It has very good food. So
yeah, that's the best food is at
I don't know what you're
Sapphire.
talking about.
I was talking about the park food.
The park food isn't great. The best food you're going to find at Universal is in City Walk. That is, period. Antojitos, it's a hit or miss. If you get the right thing, it's very good. The tableside guac is really good. The birria tacos are really good. Any of the street tacos. But our favorite place to eat is Vivo Italian Kitchen. They make their own pasta in-house. They make all of their food from scratch. I mean, we watched them cut out ravioli while we were there waiting for our food with the kids last time we were there. It's clean. You know, it's hard to eat clean when you're at a theme park, but it's very clean. It's very good. We hear mixed reviews from our friends, which is so weird. We're like, we've been coming here a long time. The main places people want to eat are Toothum's, Chocolate Emporium, and Cowfish because they Instagram-y. You know, they're cute. They're whatever. They're okay. I think the Emporium, I would eat at the Chocolate Emporium before I eat at Cowfish. Cowfish is just not it does. It's just...
And I've tried it a few times, and it's just never been,
tried it
I don't know.
a lot, and we're like, okay, we're done with this.
Vivo, I've had a lot of stuff off Vivo's menu. I'm like, because I've heard mixed reviews about it. I'm like, maybe I'm just getting something that's good, but I just have always had good experiences there. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe years ago it wasn't as good.
So I think people are expecting something crazy, but I think, you know, I hold like nutrition to a very high standard, and like when you can go, I guess, and get like this really nice nutritional meal at a theme park and it's clean, I'll pay an extra $1 for it. Like, I don't care. Give it to me. Make my insides feel better because they feel inflamed right now.
Just eating turkey legs and churros all day. You got to get something else.
So the last thing that I want to touch on when it comes to the resorts, like, what are the things that you think families should look for when they're deciding on a Universal resort? I know the suites are really important for depending on your size of your family. But what are some of your favorite things to look for outside of like Express Pass, trying to get Premier? What are the things that you think are important?
And I have a question too going into that is how many people could sleep in the 2-bedroom suites? You talked about them. How many people can sleep in them?
It sleeps up to 6, but I'm pretty sure you can also get a rollaway bed. So the way the 2-bedroom suite works is there's one room with a queen bed, and then there's a bathroom and a vanity, a kitchenette, and then 2 queen beds in the main living area. I think if you're looking for families, what you need to be looking for is, do you want to share a bedtime? What do you hold most important? Do you want to be close to the resort, or do you want to save money? Because those two things are, you know, we like to be closer to the resort, even if it costs us an extra $50 a night. Now, when we get into the hundreds, we're like, okay, you know, that's probably a little bit too much, but being close to the resort, anywhere surfside or dockside, you're going to be a little bit farther away. It's a little bit of a longer bus ride, and they have a lot of room, so the line for the bus to get back can be really long at the end of the day. Cabana Bay and any of the other resorts, you can walk to your resort. You don't have to wait in a line. Not Cabana Bay is a long walk, but we did it like 3 times this weekend. We lived, and it was great. We didn't have to wait in a line. So
for me, sleep is really important because I'm worthless if I don't sleep all right, you know what I mean? And so I mean, like, really your standard room with 2 queen beds, we could make that work because our boys can sleep in the same bed, but we're in the same room, and it's like I can't do that.
We can't share bedtimes.
No. So Cabana Bay, they've got like the pull-out couch and then like a little sliding door, and then there's the bedroom where we can sleep in the bathroom and everything, and it's perfect. And Cabana Bay too, like having young kids, where you, like especially in the summer when you go to take a break when it's just hot in the middle of the day, there's so much to do at that resort. They got a bowling alley, an arcade. They have movies at night that they just play outside on a projector. It's like a different animated movie. It's
2
so
pools,
cool.
a lazy river. I mean, we almost always take a midday break and get in the pool because it's so hot in the summer. So
Cabana Bay, whenever we're going as a full family, it's definitely Cabana Bay is the first choice for sure.
Cabana Bay was the first time I've bowled since like high school, and
we went bowling. I was showing the kids bowling, and I like threw it a couple times. And I went and sat down. I'm like, my hip hurts. Something's going. Yeah, so I'm getting old.
They had solid food, and for the people that like listen to this show for a while, they know how much I complain about Disney coffee. And my favorite thing about Cabana Bay and most of the Universal resorts is that there's a Starbucks in there.
Yeah.
And like if you know what Disney is like, you appreciate that a lot more.
Yeah.
Like because the coffee to me is just so bad, and like having a Starbucks there is nice. Chip knows I talk about this like on every episode.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Sapphire is our favorite one to go to as for our adult trips.
They don't serve Starbucks.
They're the only one that doesn't have Starbucks. But
Oh yeah.
Aventura's in the same parking lot, and Aventura has one, so we'll walk over.
We walk to Aventura to get coffee occasionally.
I like coffee too, so I've found it. We can get coffee in the morning for sure.
Yeah.
I would have to have it. But you know what, Nick, Bri, theme team, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. That's gonna wrap it up.
Yeah,
thanks for having us.
Yeah, it was.
I wish we did better on that strikeout game for sure.
No strikes.
Chip ran the table on us, man.
It was a fun game, but you guys were all on the same team and you guys figured it out. And I was shocked because like so many of those movies, I just like would have never guessed in the first place. So it was fun, and again, we really appreciate it. The time flies by, and so if you have any other questions for Nick or Bri, you want to check out all their content, all the links are going to be in the show notes in the description. But just in case anybody can't look at that, Nick, Bri, where can people find you on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube?
All three. You can find us on YouTube as The Theme Team. That's it. And then Instagram and TikTok are at _theme_team_.
Awesome. Appreciate it. And like I said, it'll all be in the show notes and in the description. As always, you can find me at Adventures of a Disney Dad on all social platforms or on YouTube, where you can find our podcast weekly. Chip, where can people find you if they're looking for you on social media?
At Robinson Dad Life on Instagram.
I love it. And we appreciate the support. If you'd like to book a trip with me for your next Universal or Walt Disney vacation, the quote is free to you. My services are free to you. You can get a quote in the description in the show notes. We greatly appreciate the support as always, and thank you again. If you could rate, and review the podcast on whatever platform you listen to, we would greatly appreciate that support, and we will all see you in the parks. Thanks again, guys.
We'll see you when we see you.
Bye, all.
See you in the parks.